Let's go to Denver, where we are joined by Suisheng Zhao, professor and director of the Center for China-U.S. Cooperation at the University of Denver. Thanks for joining us. So let's begin with what we heard in our story. Did those rural reforms spark China's transformation?
Yeah, start from the agricultural reform to dismantle those collective farming and establish individualized family responsibility system. And from there, they have gradually moved to a mass agricultural production and specialization. And in the meantime, they have also developed rural industries. That way, the incomes of the farmers could be increased dramatically. So that's how the Chinese economic reform started. That reform has really lifted the living standards of China. China has not only become the second largest economy, but also have lifted millions of people out of the poverty. I think that's a great accomplishment, achievement for a developing country of China.
Would you say that it also served as an example or a blueprint for other types of reforms in the country?
I think so, yeah, to a great extent, to using the market mechanism combined with the state guidance to develop so-called the China model of modernization. The market has played a very positive role to allocate or reallocate resources, while the state have played a role to make sure the distribution of the income and also the mobilization of resources are effective and efficient. In fact, here I think the very important point for the Chinese economic development is the role of the state. The state has maintained a very, very strong hand in the economic development to prevent all those deficiencies of the market economy in the meantime, to make sure the chaotic situation will not happen. In fact, what we see in 2008, 2009, when the financial meltdown started in the United States and the Western countries, China weathered that financial crisis much better than many other countries because the Chinese state make sure that they find efficient ways. For example, the financial crisis started in 2009. The Lehman Brothers bank collapsed. It took 4 or 5 months for the U.S. to start a stimulus package. But in China, the Lehman Brothers collapse took place in September. Just less than 1 month, China put together a huge stimulus package to make the economy out of the crisis and move out of those problems. So the Chinese state.
Professor, that is just one big example that happened in recent history. But if you look back 40, 50 years ago, it really wasn't that long ago. So how has China overcome some difficulties along the way and some problems to become one of the world's superpowers and the world's second largest economy?
The China economy used to be what they call command economy or planning economy. That economy was very inefficient, although it was much more equal in terms of income distribution. But the resources was not utilized effectively. It was equal, but everyone was equally poor. So the reform, in fact, dismantled that command economy and tried to introduce the market mechanism to the economy. That took quite a while because there were very strong resistance in vested interests. But the reformer leadership from Deng Xiaoping on, then we see some other leaders, Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao, now President Xi Jinping, have determined to develop China economy to overcome all those resistance. In fact, that's a Chinese dream, to have a strong nation and wealth economy, prosper economy. In the last 40, 30 years of reform, China has accomplished that objective to a great extent. So that's what Xi Jinping has talked about, the grand rejuvenation of the Chinese nation as China dream. China has been very, very closer, much closer than ever to be to that goal of grand rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. I came from China about 32 years ago. That time, China was totally different. I went back to China from time to time, in fact, quite a few times a year. Every time, I can see change. In fact, China today is a totally different country from the country I left. At that time, for example, my salary was 40, 50 Chinese yuan a month. Now, the per capita income of China have been a few thousand US dollars. So that's huge change.
A lot of changes.
So for myself personally, I see the change.
A lot of changes there. You're right, Professor Zhao. Thank you so much for joining us from Denver.